everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Yikes, number 1 through 5, independent comic book that ran from 1994 to 1996 by Stephen Weissman. Stephen Weissman is still going strong today, though his style has really changed since this style. This is some of the first stuff he ever did. I believe there was a Yikes mini comic before this like official number 1 comic. But he's definitely, you see the art progress. And within a year or two, he had that like cutesy style just nailed. I remember he was in like Marvel Vision magazine. They gave him a strip where he'd do cute versions of the Marvel superheroes. I mean, people really like this style. I do too. It's like one of those styles where certain characters just look funny to me. It's very fun. This is a kid's comic, even though it's got weird, bizarre shit going on. This is kind of in this tradition of John Stanley, and maybe a little Carl Barks, but mostly it's just about these crazy kids. And it's obviously takes a lot from Harvey comics because most of them are monsters. Some aren't. In fact, there is one that's like a direct Casper, the Friendly Ghost kind of correlation. But these comics are really fun, and it was interesting rereading these for the first time in a while. I forgot like the very early stuff. You know, he was like figuring stuff out. But even the first issue here is just fun as hell. So here we see all the cute characters he has. X-Ray Spence, Kid Medusa, Sweet Chubby Cheeks, Little Tin Stars, his 2 cowboy kids, twin brother and sister, and here's the Casper guy, Shaver. But these are the main characters. Little Bloody, this vampire kid, and the Pull-Apart boy, who's kind of a Frankenstein boy. And also his brother is Dead Boy, who's just a zombie. He doesn't have a thought in his head. I love this weird logo that's made from wood for some reason. It looks like wood. And these were self-published by him. And it just has this really fun feel of just like he could do whatever he wanted. I mean, some of these drawings that's a great drawing. So here's the little contents page. And we start off, we see Pull-Apart Boy. Little Bloody's coming to visit him. And just there's a lot of funny dialogue in here where it's almost like non sequiturs, but it's like the way kids talk to each other, just with their own little private jokes and just funny things. So it's really fun reading these comics. They're just very fun. And his style is so unique. Just the way he draws Little Bloody. And this is just a funny little strip where even though he sees him every day, Pull-Apart Boy's like, how do I know you're the real Little Bloody? And Little Bloody tries to prove it to him. And he finally succeeds in a very silly, dumb way, the story he tells. And so Pull-Apart Boy's like, okay, let's go have fun. And they're walking down the street. And then this other Little Bloody punches him in the face and says, imposter! That's how the comic ends. I love that one. Here's X-Ray Spence, who's basically, his powers are just he bought some X-ray specs. And he's called the See-Through Boy. So here's, they're sorting through their fan mail. Someone writes in, what's the secret origin of X-Ray Spence? And I guess Little Bloody met him at a carnival. He was working at the carnival, and he would look in people's stomachs and tell them what they ate for like a quarter. That was the shtick. But Little Bloody basically freed him. He says, you're a little kid. You shouldn't be working at a carnival. Let's get out of here. And they escaped. Of course, the letter writer somehow magically knows what he just said and says, what kind of secret origin is that? Where'd you get your X-ray vision? And he says, I ordered a mail order. They're just X-ray specs. Little Bloody and Mentally Gifted Minors. And we find out a little bit more about Pull-Apart Boy. His dad is this great scientist. And it's just a weird little adventures they get in, where they're trying to rip off this vending shack which I guess is all these vending machines, and they're trying to reach in and get free candy. They actually sneak inside, and there's just boxes of candy bars in there. I don't think this is how it works. Gone fishing with the little tin stars. So here's that little cowboy, his cowboy siblings. So that's the thing, it's a kid's comic, but look at Little Bloody chops his own thumb off on accident because he's whittling. He's trying to whittle himself a salad fork. And while he's getting sewn up in the hospital, his sister says, "You don't even like salad." Here's a Little Bloody and Pull-Apart Boy again. Just doing silly dialogue. Now we meet Kid Medusa. She's like the loneliest girl in town because anybody who looks at her turns into a statue. So she's trying to play soccer with these kids. Of course, nobody wants her around. This one is so sad where she jumps into the game, she gets hit really hard with a soccer ball and knocks her out. And you see this black panel. And when she wakes up, everyone just moved on. Nobody's like worried about her or like, oh, we should wake her up. They just moved the game somewhere else and left her alone. And Steve Weissman says at the end, "We love you, Kid Medusa." Here's an extra bonus comic inside. It's just, he made a new cover for this. The way he draws these faces just crack me up. They just look funny. So here's another Kid Medusa. This one's subtitled "The Loneliest Girl in Town." She's basically trying to hang out with Little Bloody and Pull-Apart Boy. And of course, they're like, "Get the hell out of here. We don't want to be turned to stone." Little Bloody's just closing his eyes when she barges in. Pull-Apart Boy's being nice though. And, but he's closing his eyes, of course, he has to. And he tells Kid Medusa about about his little brother, Dead Boy. So Pull-Apart Boy, I guess he wasn't made very well. So he's called Pull-Apart Boy because parts of him are always falling off and he has to be restitched. So, Kid Medusa says, it's so sad. She's such a sad little girl. She says, maybe a handsome prince will take me in his arms and tell me how beautiful I am. And Pull-Apart Boy, I think he believes it. He says, Kid Medusa, you are a beauty. And he looks at her. Of course, he turns into a statue. And then part of his head just falls off because he's Pull-Apart Boy. I guess it wears off, though. The stone effect. Here's the tin stars and another Gone Fishing. This time, the little girl gets a hook in her hand and ends up at the hospital again. Actually, I think it's little Pull-Apart Boy's dad who takes care of all the guys because he's a scientist, he's a doctor. Now here we have Pull-Apart Boy and Meet Sweet Chubby Cheeks. Now Sweet Chubby Cheeks will appear throughout these stories, and he's the villain. He's just a shitty little kid. On top of that, he's this total brown nose. I guess people think he's cute because of his sweet chubby cheeks. And all the parents love him. And even though he's a moron, the teacher totally dotes on him. And when Pull-Apart Boy, he knows what sweet chubby cheeks is really like. She gets really mad at him. Like, how dare you? Sweet chubby cheeks is such a good little boy. So she sends him to the principal's office. And later on in the schoolyard, Sweet Chubby Cheeks shows his true nature and starts, he grabs something out of Pull-Apart Boy's backpack. And it's his Christmas list to Santa. And he says, all I want for Xmas is a mom. Then my family would be complete. And sweet little Chubby Cheeks is totally mocking him. Like, oh, boo fucking who. It's really cruel. He's a little shit, Sweet Chubby Cheeks. Everyone's laughing at him. he runs off. Pull-apart boy runs off saying, "I hate you." So then he can't stand it anymore. He turns around, grabs a rock, and throws it right at Chubby Cheeks' head and beans him. So the next day at school, Chubby Cheeks doesn't show up for a while. He's like, "Oh my God, is he dead?" He shows up. He's got his face looks messed up a little. And he kind of tells what happened. Of course, the teacher sympathizes with him. "Oh, you poor dear." And then the teacher keeps grabbing him by the ear, even though she knows it's going to rip his ear off. But she takes him to the principal. The principal says, "You got to stay. You're going to hang out here all day. And I called your father. He'll be pissed off at you when you get home." So now Pull-Apart Boys finally gets to go home. And sweet Chubby Cheeks shows up again. And he just beats the shit out of Pull-Apart Boy. And he knocks him into like 6 different pieces. Next we have Little Bloody and Pull-Apart Boy in Armageddon time. This is like a nightmare that Pull-Apart Boy has, where it's Armageddon. Little Bloody's pulled down to hell, and Pull-Apart Boy's part of the rapture, flying up to heaven. And here's the scruffy little ghost, Shaver. Kind of reminds me of Soft Boy, like they'd be friends. Stephen Weissman has such a unique sense of humor. This one's so weird. Shaver finds a bag of groceries of just random stuff in the middle of the street. This guy runs up and says, "Hey, that's mine." And then the guy curses him off, so Shaver leaps at him. "What did you say?" And then the guy just farts. I guess that's his repellent. And Shaver's just like, "Ah." You have some nice drawings. He's a really interesting color sense on these covers and in his inside back covers. Here's a recipe for Little Bloody Marys. And a message from Steve Weissman. Flyogenics. Once again, our 2 main guys doing little sick experiments on flies, as kids will do. Number 2, there's Little Bloody again, taking a big shit on the cover. Classy, real classy. This is interesting here, this illustration, because it looks like nothing I've ever seen Steve Weissman do. This is like X-Ray Spence is about to hang himself. The graveyard scene. This is the startling origin of Pull-Apart Boy and Dead Boy. So these guys are playing baseball. Little Bloody saying, "You're grabbing the plate, Pull-Apart Boy." Meanwhile, in the stands, their father is on a date with a woman. She seems to be really into him. So she says, "Hey, tell me how you came to have this family without a wife." And he says, "Well, I always wanted a wife, but I'm an absent-minded professor type. I'd never had one. But I always kind of envied, I always kind of hoped I could have a family." He realized at one point that he really wanted children more than anything else. So he figured he'd make his own. And we see some of his bad dating experiences. Of course, the Charles Atlas parody once again. Though in this one, he doesn't get muscular. He just says, "I'm through dating. From now on, I'm sticking to my microscopes and tubes." And he realizes, "I'm just going to make my own children." So he goes to the graveyard and he digs up a bite. Look how weird the art is here for Steve Weissman. It's almost like he's trying to draw like a spooky story. It just doesn't look like the backgrounds are like more detailed. Almost trying to give it more drama than usually what you see in Yikes. While he's digging this grave up, Dead Boy shows up. And the father's not he's got soon to be father. He's not scared at all. He says, "Don't be afraid." And he says, "You could help me with my chore." So in no time, they dig up this body. He, was a kid who died. And he zaps him with power, and Pull-Apart Boy is born. Of course, he quickly realizes that he's not the best Frankenstein. Dr. Frankenstein is Dead boy rips off Pull-Apart's arm on accident when he goes to shake his hand. And of course, when he's done telling the story, this woman is all like, just shocked. She smacks him. She says, grave robber, blasphemer. No wonder you have no luck with women. You're a ghoul. I like how he just tells her the story as if it's a cute little story. Because he is. Like, that's a horrible crime to dig someone up. And then once again, Pull-Apart boy falls to pieces because he was crowding the plate. And little Bloody says, I told him. I guess he hit him with the ball really hard. Some of this art on this, when he draws like the adults, it's very weird to me. Very interesting. Because he definitely has this special style all his own for these kids. And that, I think he kind of stuck to that later on. That became his signature brand. Here's the inevitable time travel episode. This one's very odd once again. The father's hanging out with the kids and little Bloody. They're visiting another scientist. He's got a time machine. Of course, the kids can't resist getting inside of it. And they go back to the antediluvian times. A dinosaur starts chasing them. And Pull-Apart boy's just freaking out. He's like, this is going to take all of our wits and strength. The time machine's been smashed. We'll never get home. Little Bloody panics even more and says, we're all going to starve. Pull-Apart boy starts slapping him, saying, listen, you better keep it together. So they find a cave, and they're like, oh, I guess we're cavemen now. And they try to make fire, but they don't know how. And they basically say, there's only one thing left to do, starve and die. But then it says 20 million years later, and the ruined time machine has somehow come back, but now time has been changed, where this scientist friend of the father says, and this strange object was unearthed while the lab was being built. It's really quite old. And the kids are safe and sound. He even says at the end, he says, what gives? Steve Weissman. Here's the devil himself in The Big Shooter. Here's another interesting thing about Yikes. It like takes place in this Never Never Land. Like, these came out in the 90s. I don't think any kid in America was shooting marbles in the 90s. And yet, it's almost like, Steve Weissman grew up reading Little Lulu and those comics. So all those things are, they have go-kart races and stuff, these kids. It's very kind of retro. So the devil shows up. Says, mind if I throw with you fellows? And Pull-Apart boy runs away. He's like, get away from me, Satan. So then he basically says, I'll bargain for your soul. Double or nothing. Whoever wins this match. The devil lets him use his big shooter. And I guess, I'm sorry, I guess the devil only played him for the marbles, because he says, thank goodness you have nothing else I want, because little Bloody has no soul. He's a vampire. So little Pull-Apart boy goes back, and he realizes he left his marbles there, and now Satan is like, okay, I'm gonna play you for your soul. He agrees, and Pull-Apart boy kicks his ass with all of these old-timey terms. Onesies, double hat bands, gate crashers. Even the devil's annoyed. He's like, where do we get these fucking things? What kind of marble playing is this? I wonder if Steve Weissman actually researched marble playing. I like how the devil then gets really angry, and he says, you think I like hustling young punks like you for your fucking souls? I just want to be back in heaven, praising the Almighty God. And then all of a sudden, the hand of God comes down, my son. And he brings Satan up to heaven, and then quickly, soon after, boots him out. We see his giant foot here, and he says, and stay out. And Pull-Apart boy runs away in mortal terror. Here's a shaver again in his haunted barbershop that he operates. This is a funny little gag. Kind of funny. Here's a letter page. Gets a letter from Dan Klaus here. And this one's called Tribute. We just see a little Bloody being a little jerk to everyone. Here's Yikes number 3, featuring the little tin stars on the cover. I believe this is a wraparound cover. See, he's less like, I mean, his colors are very simple, but there's something about this blue. It's like you don't often see this blue on a comics cover. His colors were interesting. Definitely stand out on a newsstand. Well, not that this ever was sold on a newsstand, but on a comics rack. Got the contents page again, a little picture of X-Ray Spence. A little message from Steven. And we start off with Kid Medusa, the loneliest girl in town. The boys are playing Pogs, which is a big thing in the 90s. I can't even explain it to you because I didn't understand them either. And once again, Kid Medusa shows up. Little buddy slams the door in his face. But now we realize that Pull-Apart Boy kind of has a crush on Kid Medusa. Even though he is mad at her, but he says, you turned me into a statue last time. She says, come on, give me another chance. It was an accident. I'm sorry, guys. I totally misspoke. I was thinking of someone else. Pull-Apart Boy doesn't have a crush on her. He's done with her because she turned him into a statue. So she's crying. She's all sad and lonely. And then X-Ray Spence comes up, and I guess his glasses protect him from her Medusa stare. And they start playing a game together, and this is the beginning of a relationship. I don't know if it's a good one. Little Blood even says, this ain't over by a long shot. Here we have kind of a sequel to that time travel story, even though it had that weird ending. Pre-hysteria department like mad. The gospel according to Little Bloody and the Pull-Apart Boy. So I guess now they're back in the antediluvian age and getting chased by dinosaurs again. And they find this oasis because they're kind of in this wasteland. They found this beautiful oasis. And they're so tired of just eating bugs and weeds. They find a fruit tree there, an apple tree. And they're like, wow, this is the first good food we've eaten in a long time. I don't know if you guys can see this. I'll point it out again. But whenever he pulls back, he has this interesting thing where he just draws their legs as 2 sticks, which is something that Ivan Brunetti would take up a few years after this. And all of a sudden, the snake shows up. And he's like, what are you guys doing here? And he's not like the snake, the tempter snake. He basically says, this isn't your tree. Get out of here. And Little Bloody throws an apple core at his head and bonks him. And so he runs off. The serpent runs off. I'm going. I love the idea of picking on the serpent of Eden, making him run away all crying. So then he brings back Adam and Eve. He says, hey, there's the guys I told you. They say, it's amazing you're not dead. You ate from the tree. And now we're going to continue that later. Now we see X-Ray Spence. He's deep in love, but it's not going well. I guess Kid Medusa is very needy. And it's kind of fucking up their relationship. Little Bloody shows up, as well as Pull-Apart Boy. And they're kind of making fun of him. They're kind of just giving him shit. They get in a little fight, but they make up. And so then Little Bloody says, I know what'll get your mind off this. Let's go to the Little Tin Stars Ranch. They got a swimming hole. We'll have a lot of fun. You can get your mind off Kid Medusa. And somehow Kid Medusa hears this and says, it can't end like this. I must have him back. Now we switch back to the old-timey story, Genesis 3. And basically Adam says, oh, I thought you should be dead from eating that tree. That's what God told us, that you'll surely die. Now, the serpent's very different in this story. He's actually like very God-fearing. He's giving them shit for mocking the word of God. And once again, they beat him with a apple core. I like how Little Bloody calls them hippies. He says, you bunch of tree-hugging nudists. And they're like, what are you talking about? Nudist? What's a nudist? And he says, you're not wearing any clothes. That's a nudist. So just like in the Bible, but of course a very different reason, they realize they're naked, even though they haven't eaten the apple yet. So they make these weird little aprons for themselves out of leaves. And then they decide to eat the apples too, since it doesn't kill you. Then God shows up. We just see his feet. And of course he's very angry. And so Little Bloody just blames it on the serpent. And the serpent's like, what? Fuck you. And God totally believes him. He says, you betrayed me. From this day forth, you'll be cursed. And it looks like he turns them into the devil. So in this version, this is the birth of the devil. He wasn't cast down from heaven. He was already in the Garden of Eden, the serpent, and he turns them into the devil we saw in that earlier story. This is kind of interesting, the way he draws God here. He throws all these apples at their heads, Adam and Eve, and then banishes them from the garden. I don't know who this guy is. I think he's an archangel. I love this character design. I want to see more stories of him. Maybe because he looks like some weird Kirby character. Yeah, I think there was an archangel posted at the gates of Eden when they got kicked out to make sure they couldn't get back in. So now Pull Apart Boy and Little Bloody follow Adam and Eve. And they're not that peeved. They're like, I was getting tired of that place. Hey, you want to help us start civilization? And Adam renames them. Because, God said, it's your job, Adam, to name all the beasts of the earth. And he names them Cain and Abel. Of course, Little Bloody's Cain. Now we're back to that other story, the little tin stars. And our three friends show up at their ranch. Kind of interesting, this deep shadowed faces he draws. He does this more in later comics. And they're having a great day. Just having fun. We realize that both X-Ray Spence and Pull Apart Boy are kind of have crushes on the female tin star. So they're on the watering hole. They're having a great time. X-Ray Spence takes off his special specs. But he can't go swimming. He can't get his stitches wet. So meanwhile, Kid Medusa shows up. She's skulking around. And she's incredibly jealous of the female tin star girl. And then she goes to change the tin star girl. And this is kind of creepy. Pull Apart Boy follows her. And she's like, stop grinning at me like that. Meanwhile, I'm sorry. Pull Apart Boy's got X-Ray Spence's glasses on while he's swimming. So she shows up and says, enjoying your vacation, Spence? And he's all like, baby. She's like, don't you baby me. But he doesn't have his glasses. So she turns him into a statue. Inadvertently. And then meanwhile, they hear a gunshot. And the tin star girl shot Pull Apart Boy in the head. He says, I told him to stop grinning at me. I warned him. Here we have another letter page. Nice little drawing of Shaver. And there's that back cover. Yikes number 4. Better, faster, stronger. And we get a new character, Johnny Takagi. It's kind of like a little speed racer analogy. Another introduction. I actually met Steve Weissman around when these were coming out, maybe a year or two later at a Comic-Con. He was just the nicest guy. He just seemed like a fucking sweetheart. And you can almost sense his character in these. Like, these comics are pretty fucking sweet. Even though they have really weird things in them, But they're good-natured, basically, just like all the best kids comics from the 40s and 50s and maybe even the 60s. So here we meet Johnny Takagi. I like how he got his friend Kei Kiyama, who I assume knows Japanese, to do all the sound effects, so it would look more like manga. Because Stephen Weissman didn't know Japanese at the time. I don't know if he does now either way. So this is called the Sticky 850. And we see Johnny Takagi on his big wheel and his grandma on her little scooter. And they're heading to this race. This big race. And now we also get to meet the Lemon Kids, who had previously appeared in Last Gasp Comics, a little short story. Because Steve Weissman did not just Yikes, he was popping up in anthologies here and there, you know. So now we meet the Lemon Kids. They're also in the race. I can't remember what their shtick is. They're just these two cute kids, I guess. I think they're brother and sister. And so the race begins. And kind of a weird panel. Seeing all the racers there. So Johnny Takagi takes the lead. He's really good. And there's the Lemon Kids in their weird helmets. They're like in second and third place. See, there's some of those sound effects. So then Johnny Takagi's totally in the lead. And then this little girl runs out in the middle of this race. Says, "Oh, please help me, I need your help." And Johnny Takagi's a good guy. So he stops, even though he's pissed off. And she says, my Hello Kitty fell into that ditch. So he goes into the ditch. The cat attacks him. He's a savage cat. Johnny Takagi kicks him and punches him. And he gets back to the race. And once again, he actually starts taking the lead again, even though he had that distraction. This is interesting. He's going so fast, and Stephen Weissman draws this thing, sound barrier, which apparently he goes through, because here we see like almost an explosion as he crosses the finish line. The winner. He always has these weird, like, just kriga. People just say weird things. Some of the sound effects are weird. Like one of them's, I think, Koresh. And I think that was a story at the time, the Branch Davidian thing. So apparently, Takagi loses his trophy because you have to have a number. And I guess that cat tore the number off of his shirt. So this guy who runs the race says, well, you don't have a number, you're disqualified. Now get lost before I call security. He gives the trophy to the Lemon Kids. And then we realize, look at this very Speed Racer panel there. All of a sudden, he looks very different. And Johnny Takagi finds out what happened. That promoter, I guess he didn't want Johnny Takagi to win, and he's paying off that little girl and the cat. It was all a plot of his. I guess he's a big candy tycoon. He's from Big Candy, and he pays her off with a bag of Vicks Stickies. I'm sorry, it's the grandmother who sees this. So the grandmother confronts them. This one of the lackeys of this promoter grabs the grandmother. And then Johnny shows up. And we get this great little action scene. The grandmother, like, butts this guy in the nose. Beats the shit out of him. I totally want more adventures of these guys. I love the grandmother and Johnny. The cat attacks Johnny again. Johnny just punches him. It's not often you see such blatant cat cruelty in comics. And then they basically beat the crap out of the Lemon Kids and stole their trophy. And Johnny gives it to his grandmother. Now we meet Little Bloody's killing cousins, Lily and Billy Bloody. And they're pretty much little doppelgangers of Little Bloody. They come to Little Bloody's house. He's not that excited to see them, even though the cousins are like hugging him. They're like, oh, we're so excited to see you. This is very weird. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned, they just got finished killing this guy and draining his blood. So they've still got like blood in their faces. So Billy Bloody says, "Oh, I gotta wash up." Lily sits on the sofa next to pull-apart boy. She's really coming on strong to him. She really has a crush on him. So little Bloody shows Billy the bathroom, and Billy closes the door, and he says, "We're all alone, cousin." Meanwhile, we see that Lily totally hitting on pull-apart boy. He's getting kind of pissed off, pushes her away. And he says, "I'm sorry. No offense, but you look just like little Bloody. There's no way I'm going to be into a girl. It's like my buddy." And then Billy comes out. And when little Bloody comes out of the bathroom, it looks like Billy beat the shit out of him. And I guess they knocked pull-apart boy's head off and ran away. Strange story. Here's the neighborhood champs. We see our two buddies. They find some wheelchairs just abandoned on a hill. They decide to race them down this hill. I really like this page. All the different angles of their race, their wheelchair race. So the hill ends, so they don't want to leave the wheelchair, so they're just pushing them, as if they're infirm. And all these old people are watching like, "Oh, it just breaks your heart. Those poor kids. They can't walk." And everyone starts cheering them along. "Hang in there, boys." One guy just thinks, "God bless America," with his hand in his heart. And they go into this alley. And they're tired of the wheelchairs. They're like, "I hope I never lay my eyes on them again." And this guy, I think he's like a hobo or something. He's just like, "Oh my God, that's so beautiful. Can you believe how miraculous the healing process is? Those kids just got out of their wheelchairs and walked away." And then him and his weird friend who looks like a pickle. Maybe his name is Mr. Pickle or something. Pickle Puss. And they start jousting with the wheelchairs and having a good time. And then we get the rules of wheelchair jousting from Stephen Weissman. Here's another shaver story, and just pretty funny gag strip. Letter page. And look at this, guys. If you didn't believe me about the Ivan Brunetti thing, not only does it have, the little legs that Ivan Brunetti kind of stole, the little frames in this comic, the coloring, the monochromatic coloring, this could totally be later Ivan Brunetti. So here's just all these little comics. Look at this little injury to eye motif homage, the famous Jack Cole panel. Murder, Morphine, and Me. And so this is just a bunch of cute little strips, or fun little strips. Oh, I'm sorry. It looks like a bunch of strips, but it is one story. It's kind of weird. Little Chubby Cheeks hits Pull-Apart Boy after he gets this injection, and it looks like he's dead. And so she's like, "Oh, I better bury him." And it's so weird how Dead Boy helps him bury him. And Chubby Cheeks tells Dead Boy, "I know I can trust you to keep quiet." Because Dead Boy never says anything. Here's Yikes number 5, the last issue. And I kind of like this cover. It's very in your face of a face. We have the introduction here, where he informs us that this is pretty much the last issue for now, and he's gonna work on some other projects. So this one is it's weird because it looks like some of the pages are full color, and yet for the most part he just uses monochromatic color schemes. So we have Kid Medusa. Apparently she's a shredder. She does all these great skate moves, but then she falls into this garbage can, and this little dog starts barking at her. So of course she tries to pet it, and it turns into a statue. It turns into stone. She runs up into the tree because she hears people coming. And it's all the cute little kids we know, the gang. And they find the little statue of a dog. They're like, hey, who threw away this cool dog statue? Let's take it. This one's a really weird. Who pays the fare in the Shamrock taxi? Chapter 1, Rip Van Helsing. So we see this guy who's kind of a mix of Rip Van Winkle and Van Helsing. And he's getting a taxi from this leprechaun all the way out to the suburbs. So the leprechaun's kind of pissed. And he says, you better not stiff me. Because he arrives at the house. I guess, turns out it's the house of the father, the pull-apart boy, and dead boy. It's kind of interesting. That looks like he swiped it from an old, like, Golden Age comic or Kirby comic. And I guess that Rip Van Helsing was his, the father's professor back in college. He's very excited to see him. Rip Van Helsing, not so much. We find out how they met. I guess Rip Van Helsing, I'm sorry, not how they met, but how Rip Van Helsing met this leprechaun, I guess centuries ago in Ireland. And the leprechaun was dead drunk. So he stole his gold and forgot all about it. Then a month ago, he was in Version City. I don't know, that's a Clash reference, I think. Just like that Armageddon time earlier. And it turns out the ex-leprechaun came to America. The prospects weren't that good in Ireland due to the potato famine. So about like 100 years ago, he came. So they met, and Rip Van Helsing figures he needs the fare. I stole all his gold. I should give him this big fare. The father introduces the family. So I guess Rip Van Helsing has been fired because he keeps falling asleep, just like Rip Van Winkle. Now here's part 2, Little Bloodius. And so now we're continuing that time travel story, where I guess they're both a pull-apart boy and Little Bloody are immortal. Well, Little Bloody's a vampire, so of course. But also Rip Van Helsing was alive then. We see him get a newspaper, and he loves the Sunday funnies. This kind of soldier says, hey, the chief of police wants to talk to you. And I like how this chief of police looks just like Lou Costello. Look at him there. So he basically says, we need your help. There's this guy going around killing people, and we need your keen intellect. Of course, there's lots of shenanigans and funny dialogue. And so Rip Van Helsing totally gets on it. And he says, I'm going to be as brief as possible to you men. Because the chief of police said, you guys follow this guy's orders. Then we get this huge thing here. Almost Steve Ditko like use of words. So he is pretty smart. He figures out who it must be. It kind of seems like it's probably one of these cops. And almost implying that it's this guy, the one who took him to the chief of police in the first place, conked him on the head. So it's almost like he's just doing it to get back at him. Now, of course, all the victims have been found with a puncture wound, and all their blood has been sucked from their body. So he runs into Little Bloody, and he says, shameful dental work. He's got that one fang, and he's like, oh. So he follows Little Bloody home, and we realize that Little Bloody is still living with Pull-Apart Boy, just his head, and he totally overhears them talking, and you realize that Little Bloody has been killing all these guys and leaving them in the aqueducts. So now we go back in time to when they were like in the biblical era. This is chapter 3, Cain and Abel. And I'm sorry, this is just the intro panel. Rip Van Helsing says, what the hell's going on? A head that speaks. And Little Bloody says, I'll tell you what's going on. He says, thousands of years in the future, me and my friends were all playing. We got sent back in time. And we've been basically around since the dawn of time, since man, even before man has walked the earth. Little Buddy had a great time. He loved it. Little Pull-Apart Boy wasn't so happy. And they redo the Cain and Abel myth, where Pull-Apart Boy is very happy. Pull-Apart Boy is the shepherd. He's able. He loves his job. Little Bloody's kind of pissed off that he's got a farm. So Pull-Apart Boy says, I'll help you. It's weird how they just keep changing the color. Well, I guess it makes sense for this one because different time periods. So they get in a fight, and Little Bloody kills Pull-Apart Boy. Well, it doesn't really kill him. He can't be killed, but puts him to pieces. And then, just like in the Cain and Abel myth, God shows up. Little Bloody hides the evidence, hides Pull-Apart Boy's head. He's like, just be quiet. And look at this crazy God, the way he draws him with that face. Very odd, interesting. And of course he says, where's your brother? Little Bloody says, am I my brother's keeper? I don't know. And then Pull-Apart Boy says, Lord, I'm down here in this barrel. God, of course, is not very happy. So he curses Little Bloody. And I guess Pull-Apart Boy too, because he basically says, you will be restless wanderers of the earth. Little Bloody's kind of happy because he didn't like his lifestyle. And then now back to the Roman times. Rip Van Helsing has fallen asleep again. And now we see him waking up once again in the present, talking to the father of Pull-Apart Boy. Meanwhile, the leprechaun has fallen asleep and is woken up by Little Bloody riding a skateboard into his taxi. He comes out of the taxi very angrily, and then he storms up to the house and says, where's my money? I need $4,444 for that trip. And of course, Rip Van Helsing's got tons of money because he had got all that gold. Next we have I'm Already a Has-Been. And I guess Spence and Little Bloody and Pull-Apart Boy are private detectives. But Little Bloody keeps killing the clients, keeps desanguinating them. And so they get a case. But they can't find X-Ray Spence anywhere. And he's out on the ledge. He doesn't want to kill himself, though. He just says, I come out here to clear my head. So just some hijinks. And this is one of the few strips where, even though most of it's monochromatic, but sometimes it's duochromatic and sometimes it's full color. Here's another Shaver one. And he's in his haunted barber shop. I love the idea of a haunted barber shop. Shaver gets kicked out of his own barber shop. So he gets exorcised by an exorcist. So he becomes solid, and gets kicked out. But then eventually the guy who called the exorcist, he dies, becomes a ghost. He says, go to the light, go to the light. This is the barber who works at this haunted barber shop. And so Shaver gets the barbershop back all to himself. Next we have another kind of message from Stephen Weissman. Oh, I'm sorry, this is a letter. Never mind. a letter to the editor, some fun illustrations, and we finish off with another very Ivan Brunetti-looking strip, even though vice versa. And this is about Elsie Chrysler, the lost dog. It's a very cute, funny gag strip. So there you go, guys. Yikes, number 1 through 5. Now, there was some little specials featuring Sweet Chubby Cheeks. And then Yikes came back. I believe Alternative Press published it. I think there was 4 issues. I don't have those. I want them. And that's when he totally has a style nailed down. So if you liked the weird humor in these, there's more to come. And I think these Yikes characters appeared in other places, anthologies. And then, unfortunately, he's kind of done with these characters. And Steve Weissman has even changed his style a lot. It's great. It's a really good, his art's great. Just not like this. I wish he could do both. But I think he's done with this cutesy style of his. So, hope you guys like looking at these. They're kind of an acquired taste. They're kind of weird. But I love this shit. And always enjoy reading these Yikes. So that's it. Thanks for watching. And I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.